Yep.
Good morning. I would like to welcome everybody to the Audit and Finance Committee meeting of the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, along with CREDC and CRC. We're at the BWB Building, 201 West 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York. We're also streaming live on YouTube and Zoom. It's February the 9th at 9:08. We'll go ahead and start with roll call. Gary Henry's here. Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
Dan Hetzenrader. Here. Thank you for being here this morning, and we should have already received the March 17th, 2025 minutes, had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. So we'll move right into new business, discussing the audit for the 2025 financials.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having us this morning, and I always look forward to this meeting because I think it's a great opportunity to, talk before we commence the audit and get a little bit of perspective from you folks as far as what are some of the things that have happened and maybe for us to concentrate on as well. Got a few new team members. Well, one's been here and one's new, and maybe I'll have them introduce themselves to you, and then we can kind of kick it off.
So I'm Dana Eisman. If the name sounds familiar, it's because I'm married to Justin, who typically is your auditor. I've been with the firm for 15 years. I work primarily on school district audits, governmental audits, manufacturing. I do a whole bunch of electric cooperative audits and employee benefit plan audits. So Justin's currently on paternity leave. He's home with our 6-month-old. So I'm stepping in this year to kind of fill that role.
Yeah, so I'm Rhiannon. Oddly enough, I don't know if anyone else has worked with her. We have another Rhiannon that works in our firm. So there are two of us for such a unique name. But I've been with the firm about 5 years now and 2 years for an intern before that. I've been on the CCIDA audit now for at least 3 or 4 of them. I don't think I've been down here in the meeting, but I have worked on the audit previously. And then for like the type of jobs I work on, I work very closely with Dana and Justin, so I can echo pretty much everything that she said she works on throughout the years.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to meet everyone.
Okay.
So
You want to kick it off, Dana?
Sure.
Okay.
So you have our handout. So we can go ahead and jump right in. So, as part of the audit, we're required to have communications with those charged with governance, the board, the audit committee. So the plan today is kind of run down through what everyone's roles and responsibilities are under the audit. We'll talk a little bit about fraud risk, our audit strategy, and then round it out with our audit deliverables and our timetable. Okay. So if you turn open to the first slide here, you can see listed are the responsibilities for BWB under generally accepted auditing standards. So first and foremost, our responsibility is to express an opinion as to whether or not we feel the financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with the standards. Our audit provides reasonable assurance, not to be confused with absolute assurance. We don't look at every single transaction, but we do provide an opinion on whether or not they're free of material statements. We do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of your internal controls, but we do take them into consideration in planning and performing our audit procedures. With that being said, if we identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we will communicate those to you in a timely manner. Okay. Next page, listed here are our responsibilities under government auditing standards. Reading through, they're very similar to what we just went over. With an added component, we do have a requirement to perform compliance testing. So I think in the past, we typically look at the loans that are issued by the agency in terms of compliance and verify whether we're complying with the local laws and regulations in place.
I was just going to jump in here. So government auditing standards, one of the other big requirements is continuing education. So as a firm, we're required to get continuing education, like roughly 40 hours per year. And when you perform audits in accordance with government auditing standards, actually, you're required to have a concentration in government education. And so, Dana and Rhiannon and myself and anybody that works on government audits, like, we need to make sure we're taking those types of courses throughout the year. And so that's a big part of, performing audits under government auditing standards as well.
And then lastly, we do have some responsibilities under the uniform guidance. So because our federal spending is over the $750,000 threshold, we're required to have a single audit, which is essentially a compliance audit. So each year we look at some of your major federal grants and provide an opinion as to whether or not we're adhering to the federal requirements and guidelines. Okay. So just touching on fraud risk real quick, all of us have a responsibility here, management, us as your auditors, as well as the audit committee. So for management, the responsibility here is really to set the tone at the top. Make sure that we're stressing the importance of honesty, integrity, and ethical. It's also management's responsibility to make sure that that there are controls that are designed and implemented to help prevent and detect fraud in a timely manner. Okay. Now, conversely, our role as it relates to fraud is to evaluate the control environment. Also, throughout the course of the audit, we'll conduct fraud discussions with various people throughout the organization, ask them if they're aware of any fraud, and just kind of try to get their views on where fraud risk may exist. The committee's role here is to follow up on any fraud that's brought to the committee or to the board. Okay. All right, so as I mentioned previously, we don't look at every single transaction. We do use audit materiality. And so, we determine audit materiality at the beginning of the audit, and it's based on both qualitative and quantitative factors. So quantitatively speaking, we do a calculation that's based either on your total assets or your total revenue. And this calculation spits out a number that says it's a threshold that we use. So essentially anything over that threshold could potentially cause material misstatement if not reported properly. Okay. Qualitatively speaking, if there are any areas that we deem to be fraud risk, that could have an impact on our audit materiality. Also the sophistication of your financial reporting. Do we use a lot of manual calculations? Is there room for human error, or do we have things more automated? And then also key personnel competencies. Do we have competent people that are in the roles of our financial reporting? Do we have any employee turnover, anything like that? Those are all things that could have a bearing. Now, in preliminary conversations that we've had with Shelby and Kayla, we don't have any concerns with that at this time.
And I think when you think about qualitative too, it's like, as Dana mentioned, we set thresholds at the beginning of the audit. And so you might say, well, what would make that be material? If it's not number driven, what else would it be? And it's, sometimes it's, an example might be like an entity that would have a loan covenant, and the loan covenant says your threshold debt service coverage ratio, for instance, needs to be this. And let's say we find an error, and the error is clearly not material from a number perspective, but if that error was recorded properly, it would have a bearing on whether we meet or don't meet the debt service coverage ratio. Well, even though it doesn't meet the materiality from a number standpoint, it does, because it's, it'd be a big difference as to whether we meet it or don't meet it. So that's kind of what we look at from a qualitative standpoint. Is there something, if we were to find an error, would it have bearing to the readers of the financial statements and the users of the financial statement? So that kind of goes into our minds as well.
We also have a responsibility for assessing significant risks of material misstatement. And as you can see on the next 2 pages, there's a whole boatload of factors that influence this valuation. And again, they're both qualitative and quantitative. So just kind of name a few, we do internal control testing, and the results of that testing could have an influence on the evaluation. If we identified any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we probably have to adjust our level of risk. If we have any new accounting pronouncements, any new GASB standards, that could also have a bearing as well. Last year, we had GASB 101 that was implemented related to compensated absences. To my knowledge, we don't have any accounting pronouncements that have to be implemented this year, so that's a positive. On the following slide, any significant or unusual transactions, if you have any material events in the current year, that could also influence our evaluation. And then, lastly, the results of your compliance testing. If we noted any material non-compliance, that would also be something that would impact our risk assessment.
I think over the years, in my mind, that's probably one of the biggest areas of risk is just a lot of times there's unique things that occur at the IDA. They're just, complex because they're not done every single day or every single year. And so, how do we record them? Are they recorded properly? And, it could be a sale, it could be some type of fee structure with a project. And so in my mind, like that's, the evaluation of those types of items and, are they being ultimately reported the way they're supposed to be reported is a big deal.
We can talk a little bit about our audit strategy. So we take a balance sheet approach to the audit, meaning that we review pretty closely any significant balances on your balance sheet. Okay. We perform both predictive analytical testing as well as detailed substantive testing procedures. So, for example, we substantiate most of your significant grants that come in. We look at the grant agreements and make sure that they're properly reported. We send confirmations for your notes receivable. And we also significantly test your allowance for doubtful accounts. Okay. And then lastly, we also make sure that we have assigned experienced auditors to look over the high risk areas of the audit. All right, so at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the committee. Any concerns regarding fraud, any known or suspected fraud that's been brought to the committee's attention that we should be aware of?
None that I'm aware.
No. Okay. Any litigation, anyone trying to sue the IDA for anything that, any reason we should contact your attorneys? Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, are there any other areas that are just complex or new this year that we had some discussion with Shelby and Caleb, but as far as the committee's concerned, like, is there anything that has come up during the year that, we should be aware of during the course of the audit?
I don't think anything for last year. I mean, we have this new system coming online that we're gonna be using but that would probably be more for
next year.
Because we
Yeah.
haven't implemented it yet, so.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything for last year.
No.
Great.
All right, so that brings us to the last section here. Looking at your audit deliverables, no significant changes from what we issued last year. If you look at section of those audit reports, you'll see those again in this year's audit. We'll continue to present the statements on a consolidated basis. For letters, we always issue a governance letter at the conclusion of the audit. Management letter is going to be dependent on if anything comes up during the audit, if we identify any material weaknesses, significant deficiencies that we want to bring to your attention, or if there's other items that we know are coming down the pike, like if we know of any governmental standards that are going to be changing or anything else that we just want to bring to your attention, we'd include in that. Okay.
Yeah, the newest government standard is 103, which isn't going to have a tremendous impact on you. A lot of it's actually geared towards the MD&A section of your financial statements. And I think, when you kind of look at your MD&A, compared to this new standard, like, I don't think there's a whole lot that's really gonna need to be modified. I mean, your MDA is very robust. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of descriptions as to why things went up or down. So that's kind of the spirit of the new GASB, is to, not just to have a chart in there, but also provide a little bit of, analysis of what changed this year versus last year. And so don't expect it to be major, but we'll definitely have some conversations about it. If there's anything that does need to be modified, we'll bring it to your attention.
Looking, is there gonna be any like additional testing? Periodically, there's been years where we've done further testing in one area or another.
Yeah. Probably obviously the reserves, we're gonna spend some time on, because I think this is your first year of evaluating them, so I think that'll be probably a big area that we're gonna have discussions and, just verify that everything looks good from that perspective. We know that you recorded some of the accruals with payroll and benefits this year, which in the past was like an audit difference. So we'll kind of look at that as well. Yeah. And then I think lastly, which is a good thing, I think you mentioned, you have like a cost sharing between your funds, and historically, that's been done on a quarterly basis where folks do a time study, and now you're doing it more routinely on a monthly basis, which I think's great. And we'll just kind of look at that and compare it to last year. See, what ultimately the impact of that is, but I think that was a really good change.
All right, so last page here, we've got our audit deliverables timetable. We do have this week carved out to work on the audit. Now that's not to say that we'll have it completely done, but we should have it substantially complete with, open items, questions at the end of the week that will probably lead into the next couple of weeks. But we will make every effort to get everything wrapped up in time for the board meetings. So at this time, do we have board meeting dates set, audit committee meetings that we're aiming for?
Our next board meeting date is February 24th.
And
Oh,
then
March.
Yeah, about the March meeting.
And March is.
You think it'll be done by
No.
I
was like, March is the hard one.
Say, nobody told me about that.
March 24th,
Okay,
yes.
and that's,
Sorry about that.
that's the board meeting date?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
and that will actually take place at our North County office in Dunkirk.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
And-
no new technology.
Okay, so then do we meet with the audit committee prior to that then?
Yes,
last year it was a week before.
a week prior, I think. Mhm.
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense either like early that previous week or the latter part of the week before that. Just in case there's any changes,
Yep,
that way we
sure.
can get the reports out to the board ahead of time as well.
So maybe Thursday or Friday of the week prior.
A week
Yeah.
prior. So
So like
the 19th.
well, I'm probably either like the 11th, 12th or 13th, or we could probably do the 16th of March too.
Okay,
Whatever's good for.
okay. Talk about it, yeah. Okay.
And then we also typically file the CREDC 990. It has an original due date of May 15th. I think in the past we've typically extended. I would assume probably we'll do that again this year. But yeah.
Standard.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Got any questions?
When is your conversion? Have you started the conversion or for your new system? Or
We're working on building the chart of accounts. right
building the chart
now,
accounts?
Yeah,
Nice.
we're hoping to be live in April.
Exciting.
Yes.
Are you gonna kind of run dual systems first or not?
Probably, I mean, for like the first couple weeks, I would
Just-
imagine, but hopefully we can,
Can kind of hit the ground
hit the
already.
ground running.
Go for it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Automated.
Everything's
Yeah.
automated.
Yeah. I won't have to drive to the bank kiosk to make deposits anymore. We're gonna switch banks too. so,
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice.
Like Christmas. 5 years. we're out to
Yeah.
one.
Will it make those pilots any easier?
We're
Tracking.
hoping to at least
You think
track
we'll-
the schedules in the
Yeah.
system. So
That'd be
that
nice.
is huge because right now it's
Yeah,
a lot of fun for Kayla.
yeah.
Plus our new CRM system. I wasn't prepared and didn't get everything input because that just went live
Yeah.
a couple months ago or so,
Yeah,
but.
yeah.
This year, going forward, we're gonna put all of our pilot stuff into the CRM system for each individual client, and that way I can pull reports for Paris at the end of the year,
Nice.
right from that. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
that should be a lot better, and I can store all the clients' responses and everything in the CRM, so we can have year upon year.
Yeah.
Built up in there, so.
Very nice.
Good. Yeah.
How have they been going? Pretty good
Yep,
as far as collections.
this year it was like right on the edge.
There were
Was it?
a few that
Few that
were
were
right
tough.
up
For that paid. I mean,
4 o'clock on the deadline.
Really? Wow.
but like, I got it done.
Got it.
I didn't have to charge any late fees.
Yeah.
Nice.
When you mentioned bank, that reminded me, is there anything we have to do with that stolen check?
Yes,
Oh.
so I spoke to M&T 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, they called me. So they're working on their end with the bank that cashed it. So they're trying to get that bank to basically go after the fraudster. And they have to allow them 6 months, I think it was, before they can escalate it on M&T's side. So if they don't get it back in 6 months and then return it to M&T, then M&T escalates it. So we will get it back, but it may be summertime.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, in all frankness, I'm not really impressed with how they're handling it because I mean, we are a big customer. We have high balances and
Mhm.
their responsiveness is not ideal. So I let them know that we are changing banks.
Yeah.
So,
We've never had a fraud claim ever.
Did you guys implement positive pay?
no, not
Not yet.
with, not with M&T, but we will. with
That's what I
this
thought.
one,
So we
yeah.
thought we talked about
Yeah.
this. It's incredible, the amount of wash checks or, I mean, highly, I think we've seen the wash checks, but in our school district audits, I mean, I alone, out of the ones I audit, have had 3 of them had pretty
Yeah.
large substantial wash checks, just change the name of who the vendor is
Yeah.
and get them cashed.
Yeah.
And so that might also be a reason the bank's taking so long, because I don't know if I'm sure it's been going on for a while, but it seems like in 25, the volume just went up substantially. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Well, it took them probably what, a month and a half in order to at least get us with somebody that's gonna respond to us. So they kept
Yeah.
bouncing us around.
Yeah, that would have.
And, yeah,
That right
I was not
Of course,
impressed.
their claim at first was, well, you didn't notice this, you have what? Is it 60 days or
Oh,
something?
yeah, when we finally got connected to somebody, they said, well, it's past the deadline. And we
Yeah.
were like, it's past the deadline because you keep bouncing us around.
Yeah.
So it was not impressive,
Yeah,
but we'll get it.
We were at a conference last week and there were a couple insurance folks there that did a presentation. I think they were from Gallagher or Utica, one of the two. And they told of a story just recently of an entity that was doing a capital project. And they said that somehow the fraudsters, well, you know how there's like those AIA contract forms that go through the architect and get approved, and then they go for payment. Well, that AIA form was fraudulently more or less copied and then provided to the entity to pay, and the number to pay had a different number. And so the money went out to a fraudulent account. And the way I think they got it is those AIA contracts were on the board minutes. And so the fraud, they
Yeah,
looked at it and saw it, made the copy exactly, and it looked legitimate for the person that was reviewing it. Everything was exactly what they expected it to be. And it was a fraudulent claim. So it's getting that sophisticated, which is like
Wow.
unbelievable.
yeah.
It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when they said that. I'm like, holy cow. So it's, I think with AI and things that they can
Let's see.
copy and manipulate. It's wild.
Mhm.
It's funny because
Wow.
when I first started almost 8 years ago, a lot of people paid their pilots in cash. And, you know, like there's a fair amount of cash coming into the office where, I mean, we're not we don't sell things, you know, like we're not like a cash transaction kind of. But there was a fair amount of cash coming in and now we've moved to all checks, which is great, but now that checks are so easy to defraud.
I don't know what their answer will be either. Like my credit card, 11:30 the other night, I got a notification that I had a $300 and some order from a clothing company and I was like, what? And they overnighted it. I was like, if I happen to like go to bed and like was not awake then, like it still would have gone through.
Yeah.
Luckily I was able to cancel it right away, but I was like, well, right there goes that whole account.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
All right.
we implemented that positive pay, you know, at my company,
Uh-huh.
which is great. It helps with the thing, but it also, it seems like they've gotten better, but at the start, there's always like one or two that doesn't upload properly.
Yeah,
But it's always like an employee's paycheck or something.
Yeah.
So you know how frustrated an employee is when they go to
Yeah.
cash their check and they
Yeah.
can't.
yeah,
So it, you know, it creates a lot of other problems too, and
yeah,
it's the world we live in.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's time and cost to it,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it.
Anything else to come before the committee? Okay, we'll consider the meeting adjourned and you're gonna set us up another meeting,
Yes.
you know, in March.
Yep, in March 11th, 12th, 13th through the 16th, and I'll send out a calendar invite. and
Awesome.
We'll meet here again and just prior to the March board meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well.
All right. Have a great